Thank you. Minority Leader, you sought...
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd indeed sought your indulgence to allow me to raise some pertinent issue that touches on the Constitution and the laws of the land. Mr. Speaker, for starters, I think it is in the public domain that yesterday the controller of budgets, Dr. Margaret Nyakango, was arrested and arraigned in court over some matters which I am not privy to. And of course, I am alive to the rule of sub judice, and therefore I will not venture into those matters. I'm so much alive to the rule on sub judice and outstanding orders, so I will not delve into the matters that are before court. But let me say this. I think it is the first time since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution that a holder of an independent office has been charged in the court of law. If I'm not wrong, I may be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. It's the first time since 2010. And that raises serious issues. And I want to, from the outset, take you, Honorable Speaker, to the provisions of Article 95 of the Constitution that sets out the functions of this House. Inter alia, under Article 95 of the Constitution, sub-article 2, the National Assembly deliberates on and resolves issues of concern to the people. But if you go further down, at Article 95, sub-article 4, among other things, the National Assembly determines the allocation of national revenue between the two levels of government. At B, the House appropriates funds for expenditure by the national government and other national state organs. But above all, at C, the House exercises oversight over national revenue and its expenditure. Mr. Speaker, I want to draw your attention to the provisions of Article 228 of the Constitution that creates the office, that establishes the office of the Controller of Budget. Honorable Speaker, under Article 228 of the Constitution, sub-article 4, the Controller of Budget shall oversee the implementation of the budgets of the national and county governments by authorizing withdrawals from public funds under Article 204, 206, and 207. In a nutshell, the Controller of Budget is exercising her mandate pursuant to the function of this House of appropriating funds to various agencies and organs of government and authority. Honorable Junet is reminding me. Mr. Speaker, there is a notion which has been created out there since the arraignment of the Controller of Budget yesterday, that perhaps the office of the Controller of Budget is now vacant, or somehow the Controller of Budget is now impeded from performing her functions. Let me go further, Mr. Speaker, to draw attention to the provisions of Article 251 of the Constitution. Under Article 251 of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, sub-article 1, a member of a commission or the holder of an independent office, such as, of course, the Controller of Budget, may be removed from office only for one serious violation of the Constitution or any other law, including contravention of Chapter 6. B, gross misconduct, whether in the performance of the members or the holders' functions or otherwise. And C, physical or mental incapacity to perform the functions of the office. D, incompetence, and finally E, bankruptcy. And then it goes on to set out how such a removal can be initiated, and so on and so forth. Mr. Speaker, finally, I want to draw attention to the provisions of the Controller of Budget Act. Section 4, which of course just underscores what the Constitution already provides for. Subsection 1, the office of the Controller of Budget shall become vacant.
Honorable Wandai, I'm still at a loss as to what you want.
Yeah.
And you whistling in the dark?
No, I'm just actually laying a foundation for my submission, which I'll conclude very, very quickly. Yes.
You know what whistling in the dark means?
No. Okay. I know. Mr. Speaker, the act, the subsidiary legislation that has given effect to the Constitution provision that creates this office, at Section 4, Subsection 1 provides how the Controller of Budget can leave office. Of course, by resigning in writing to the President, okay, by being removed in the manner provided for under Article 251, and C, upon death. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with you, because it is only this House that can calm the nation. Because as I've already said, the functions of the Controller of Budget are so serious, are so integral to the performance of the budget itself, but more importantly, generally to the performance of the economy. And therefore, any insinuation that the office holder is either incapacitated or barred from performing her functions can create unnecessary anxiety and distress in the economy generally. But more importantly, her functions are intertwined with the functions of this House. And therefore, it is the duty of this House to set the record straight if there is such kind of misconception out there. We don't want to go into the reasons why the Controller of Budget was arrested. Some of us hold a strong view that she was being, of course, hounded out of office. She was being pursued for her strong stance against misuse of public funds. I will recall.
Order, Speaker, that is speculative.
Okay, but Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you, I want to bring to attention the fact that I happen to have sat in the National Dialogue Committee, which was co-chaired by none other than the Leader of Majority. Madam Margaret Nyakango came before us and made very, very serious allegations on how public funds are being misappropriated by people who are charged with the responsibility of managing public funds. We followed up that issue with the relevant officers, including the CS National Treasury. The only answer we got was that the matter has been referred to the Auditor General. And therefore, the public has got a reason to believe that perhaps the reason why she's being pursued or being hounded out of office is because of her strong stance against misuse of public funds. In any event, Mr. Speaker,
wind up. Be cautious of the fact that
yes,
this is a matter before court, and what you are saying now is likely
I will
to undermine the integrity of the case, including the defense of the person you are defending.
Okay, I'm well guided. But let me conclude. As I seek that you make a determination and issue a communication from your chair, Mr. Speaker, allaying these fears that are out there, that office has somehow been incapacitated following the arrest and arraignment of the office holder yesterday. But finally, under the Constitution, I think Article 157, which creates the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and indeed generally under common law, a prosecution is undertaken after exercising certain discretion by those
being tautologous.
Mr. Speaker, this is very important. This is very important. Before somebody is charged in court with a criminal offense, it is the duty of the DPP, first and foremost, to ensure that the charges, of course, pass the evidential test. I'm sure you know that. And also in public interest.
Honorable Wandai.
Yes.
You have crossed the line.
Okay, I will again retreat. But finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with you that the public out there is
You have only
utterly
said
anxious.
two things. That the control of budget has been charged, and the second one is that she continue working as a control of budget. That is all you have said in so many words.
And let me summarize. That my submission is that regardless of the actions that were taken yesterday by way of charging the controller of budget, Dr. Margaret Nyakango, under the law and under the Constitution, Dr. Nyakango continues to hold office as controller of budget and continues to discharge her mandate under the Constitution and under the law. And therefore, any other insinuation should be discarded. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I submit.
Honorable members, I can see two senior lawyers raising their hands. A third one. This matter is before a court of law. And from what I've seen in the media, and I take judicial notice, yes. Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes. Avoid going the direction of the minority leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise with a lot of sympathy to my very good friend. The only thing that he has done, he has redacted certain parts of the law. If he had read everything, Mr. Speaker, I wish he had also made reference to the Leadership and Integrity Act. Two, in the same constitution that he made reference, a state officer is defined and it is known who it is. The controller of budget is a state officer. He should have also made reference to the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act. Mr. Speaker, you know, when you read selectively the law, and then you tell us what the total import of the law, you mislead the House and you mislead the public. Mr. Speaker, you should not be invited to interpret something that is absolutely clear, is contained in the books. In fact, to my best recollection, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Wandai, the leader of minority, was part and parcel. When I moved the Leadership and Integrity Act, in fact, you contributed to it. I mean, you know when it was. The Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, you know what it says. You cannot abdicate your responsibility of knowing, and then you become a resident, a permanent resident in ignorance. Mr. Speaker, that should not be allowed. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Wandai.
Did I hear Honorable Zakonga refer to me as being ignorant? Can that possibly be true? Mr. Speaker, even if you were to be asked such a question, I think it's out of order. Please kindly rule it.
Order, it's an unkind remark, Honorable Chepkonga, to your colleague. You withdraw that.
Mr. Speaker, I just said he is making an attempt to enter into the permanent residence of ignorance. I said an attempt. I have not said he's ignorant. I said he's making an attempt.
You said he's a permanent resident in ignorance.
No, I said making an attempt.
Just withdraw.
No,
it's an unkind remark.
I withdraw.
You've withdrawn? Yes. Thank you. I don't want to escalate this debate. Those of you who think you are defending Dr. Nyakango, you're actually prejudicing her case. Because we are not privy to the facts of the case. If you are, the Speaker isn't. I want to... Yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me first thank the Honorable Chepkonga for withdrawing that remark on ignorance, because for all I know, the leader of minority is not ignorant, and is indeed doing very well, as he has actually caught up on what the leader of minority should be doing. He is doing his work as the leader of minority. And therefore, and I see the spirited attempts to defend our good friend Mary Nyakango, the controller of budgets. And it's indeed true, Honorable Margaret. Honorable Speaker, you can hear I'm not very privy to the names than those in the minority. But Honorable Speaker, the spirited attempt to defend Mary Nyakango by the leader of minority is what I also saw yesterday with certain political quarters. But I would really want to urge all of us to treat the matter for what it is. And I want to agree with the leader of minority that indeed Margaret Nyakango holds an independent office together with the Auditor General. What I do not agree with the leader of minority with is that holders of independent offices, there is absolutely nothing in the Constitution that says a holder of an independent office cannot be charged or is above the law. And the matters that Margaret Nyakango has been charged with in court are out there in the public domain, are issues that came, or she's being accused of, issues that happened at a time she was not the controller of budget, way back in 2016, in some financial institution that she managed or ran. And there are complaints lodged. And therefore, when investigative, Honorable Speaker, I hold a constitutional office as leader of majority. If at the time I was selling meat as a butcher in Kikuyu, I had certain improprieties, and Junet, who used to supply me with cows, complains that I never paid him, or I took off with some of his money. Honorable Speaker, I am found culpable to be charged. I think those are matters we should leave before the courts, for the court to consider what evidence will be adduced by the DPP and the DPP's witnesses, and whatever defense Margaret Nyakango will mount in court. Because I agree with Honorable Chepkonga, it is one thing to read the Constitution and claim independence of the office, excluding us from reading the Article 6 on integrity. Honorable Speaker, what you are being invited by the leader of minority to pronounce yourself on is not for you to pronounce yourself on. Because what the leader of minority is now inviting you to is a political duel. And it is okay for the political duel out there in press conferences, in other organized media, but to attempt to use this chamber to prosecute a matter that is in court, I think the leader of minority also duly noted that matter will be sub judice, and I would really want to implore on him to heed your advice that even those who seek to defend Margaret, they may actually be prejudicing her case in court. It is safer for us to leave that matter to court. Let the court make a determination based on evidence that will be adduced in court. We don't know what evidence the DPP has. There is nothing in our Constitution and in our laws that say either the Auditor General or the holder of an independent office like the controller of budget are immune to prosecution. And in fact, that will be the height of impunity if we say that a holder of a constitutional office, like the leader of majority, is immune to prosecution. That independent office holders or constitutional commission holders are immune to prosecution. Honorable Speaker, when we say that we shall deal with impunity, and this House, including the leader of minority who is a member of this House, must be seen at the forefront of the fight against graft. And graft, Honorable Speaker, is not only graft when it touches on public funds or on public office. Even those who are in the private sector who engage in graft, Honorable Speaker, we must at the forefront as leaders to speak against graft and impunity in this country, Honorable Speaker. It is not lost on me, Honorable Speaker, that the same people today who purport to be defending Margaret Nyakango are the same people who yesterday were vilifying the same Margaret when she spoke about state capture, when she spoke about how she was forced in the wee hours of the last regime to withdraw 15 billion shillings from the exchequer. Thank God, Honorable Speaker, that today we are not speaking about Margaret Nyakango being forced by anybody in government to make withdrawals from the exchequer or to approve payments that she thinks should not be approved. We are talking about impropriety on the person of Margaret Nyakango before she came into office as a controller of budget. Nothing to touch on her conduct in office. Honorable Speaker, lastly, I was a co-chair of the National Dialogue Committee. And I know a matter that Margaret Nyakango said in that committee that has now been blown out of proportion. And I had the leader of minority allude to it, although selectively, with some selective amnesia of what was said in that committee. But because I was chairing that committee, I know when the National Treasury CS answered on the question of whether there was budgeted corruption on expenditures in the office of Margaret Nyakango. Because I remember Margaret Nyakango said that there is budgeted corruption, and I can give the example of my own office, where I am the only public officer. I know how much I earn, but what was budgeted for my pay was almost 2 times. And Honorable Speaker, the National Treasury did explain that part of what was budgeted for in the Office of the Controller of Budget included other entitlements to that office, like car grants, mortgage, which have not been taken. Honorable Speaker, again, out of what the Honorable Leader of Minority seems to be doing very well, to push political narratives, that with selective amnesia, they have opted not to hear the explanation from the National Treasury. And I wondered if there was budgeted corruption on matters touching on the salaries and wages of only one officer, that is Margaret Nyakango in the Office of the Controller of Budget, who then would have been the beneficiary of that money other than herself. Therefore, it's a fallacy, Honorable Speaker, to say that somebody is budgeting for corruption in my office and I'll be the beneficiary. Honorable Speaker, again, as I said, those in the minority, for the sake of political pushing political narratives, opt not to hear that. And they only want to run away with the claim of budgeted corruption, a double salary, without the rebuttal from the National Treasury explaining why the figures were what they were, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would really beg that you do not entertain the thought of inviting this House or the Office of the Speaker to make a determination on a matter that is squarely in the domain of the courts, another arm of government, and they'll be able to make an informed decision based on evidence of whether there was impropriety on the person of Nyakango before she became the Controller of Budget or not. And that we should not be even be debating, Honorable Speaker, as the Leader of Minority said, it is a matter that is sub judice. Honorable Speaker, lastly, nobody has said Nyakango is vacating office. I don't know where the Leader of Minority has gotten that from. But if the law was to be followed, the law will be followed to the letter in terms of how you get into office, when and how you leave office. Therefore, I know the invitations and I saw the flurry of activities, including people exciting ethnic emotions and wanting to mobilize around ethnicity, Honorable Speaker. We must desist and deal with matters to do with court cases, deal with them in the courts. Those dealing with graft, deal with them with the agencies that ought to deal with them. For us as leaders, Honorable Speaker, and as parliamentarians, we should rise above the fray of political engagements when it comes to the chamber and play our role to oversight all these institutions, including the Office of the Controller of Budget and the DPP, Honorable Speaker, and therefore plead with you not to agree to be invited to where or what you are being invited to by the Leader of Minority.
I don't want to escalate this matter. Order, Junet, sit. Take your seat. You know, the minority leader has made some submissions before the House, which are factual, that the control of budget has been taken to court. I've read it in the media. That she's a constitutional office holder, it is public knowledge. And what entails that office, that's public knowledge. He has not brought any evidence to the House to the effect that Margaret has been prevented from going to her office. So it's a matter that's academic and moot, and we don't need to belabor it. Because the articles you have quoted in the Constitution are correct. The fact that Margaret has been taken to court, and from what I also saw, is not related to her performance as a control of budget. That is in public domain. So let's leave the matter there so that we don't prejudice her case. We are making it difficult for her lawyers and other lawyers who may turn up in court with the Hansard from this house and complicate her defense and push her in the deeper end of the waters, and that is not good. Jeanette, I hope you are not wanting to speak on this. If you start discussing the case, I'll stop you.
No, Mr. Speaker, I will not discuss the case. And also, I want to assure you that we are not here to defend anyone. But, Mr. Speaker, having had consultation with the minority leader, I wanted to bring out a perspective. Mr. Speaker, as a senior lawyer, you are aware that the constitutional officers and independent officers report to this House, Mr. Speaker. This is where they report to. They don't report to the executive, they don't report to the judiciary. So we are addressing this issue in a holistic manner, because Margaret Nyakango will not be the last person or the last constitutional office holder that will be prosecuted or will be charged. There are others who are going to come after her maybe. So we wanted, as a matter of national concern, how do we address as a country when a constitutional office holder is charged? The issue the minority leader was raising is, are the provisions in the Constitution in terms of removal of a constitutional office holder, removal of office, are they suspended when they are prosecuted? That is one of the major issues he was trying to point out. Because as the majority leader has said, he's also a constitutional office holder. But the Constitution does not provide in any way his removal. It's provided in the standing orders.
You are also whistling in the dark, my friend.
No, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. But what made me also, Mr. Speaker, last night have sleepless night, Mr. Speaker, this lady that has been charged, and also we have to look at things retrospectively. As a house, we passed this lady here, and I participated in 2019 in passing her as the controller of budget, Mr. Speaker, after a thorough vetting by the Committee of Finance, Mr. Speaker. Didn't we know that she had a case at that point in time? What indictment is that making on us as Parliament, Mr. Speaker? Because she came with documents from relevant organizations that deal with criminal offenses, Mr. Speaker, the ESCC, the DCI, and here 3 years later, issues come up and you are told that 7 years later, you are told that she had a matter pending either in somewhere, the money that she has stolen. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, the issue that you are being invited, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell you, Mr. Speaker, as the Speaker of this House, as you ruled, it is true, we have no role in this matter now because it's before the court. But as the Speaker of this House, Mr. Speaker, you have a constitutional mandate to defend and protect the Constitution, and especially constitutional office holders. It is the Speaker who can defend them, Mr. Speaker. And secondly, and more important, Mr. Speaker, the issue that has been raised in this country yesterday, issues of weighty matter, control of budget, Mr. Speaker, you remember a long time, it used to be auditor and controller. There is a reason why the two officers were separated under the new constitution. Otherwise, we should remain just like the old. Mr. Speaker, I submit. I have said what I want.
I'm still at a total loss as to what you people want. Honorable members, let's not prejudice Dr. Nyakango's case. That's number one. Number two, if what Honorable Wandai is alleging, and he has evidence to show to the Speaker, then the Speaker will have some locus on the matter. As it is now, I have absolutely no locus. I have no information that Dr. Nyakango has been stopped from going to her office. None whatsoever. What I read in the media, and media is not a source of authority on the floor of this House, is that she had been charged and released on bail. Whether she posted the bail and walked away, I don't even know. So if, Honorable Wandai, you have any facts beyond what you have given me, because you have correctly recited the Constitution and that it ends there. Completely. It has absolutely no application to Dr. Nyakango's case until and unless a situation arises that requires my consideration. And you'll have to convince me that I've got the locus and the jurisdiction to deal with the matter. So thank you for raising the matter, but let's leave it there. Farah Maalim, what is it?
Mr. Speaker, I really appreciate the manner in which you have disposed of this matter. But I just want to ask something. Ordinarily, within the civil service practice, if somebody is taken to court, that person goes immediately on interdiction, more so on a criminal matter, and then with a half salary until the matter itself is determined. But when we established in these constitutional offices, I don't think we took that into consideration. I was in Parliament with the other time. Now, would you probably want to look at that and see how, in view of these challenges, a bit of a constitutional crisis?
There is no such matter before me, Farah, at all, and we will not deal with it. I hear Beatrice Elachi, or is it Rachel, talking about selective amnesia. I told you when we met in Mombasa about the cant and banter of debate. The fact that Chungwa, the majority leader, said the Honorable Wandai has exhibited selective amnesia, and the Honorable Wandai didn't bother about it, is because it's part of the candor and banter of debate. Yes, you shouldn't worry about it. You can't wail louder than the bereaved. The bereaved is quiet. Let's call the next order.